What's up guys, welcome back with some more Genshin Impact, and today we are checking out another theory. It is the craziest plot twist of Signora, and it is made by islandxd. So as always, if you enjoyed this video, you already know the deal. Be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And the original link will be in the description box below. So Signora. I love watching videos about Signora. Like the last one we checked out was like actually about like the lore that we reacted to, right? So I'm guessing this has to do with them thinking, well, it says right here on the bottom, is Signora dead? So them thinking Signora is going to be coming back to life or something. I've heard people saying that's going to happen, people hoping, some people don't care. Me, if they do it, I want it to be satisfying if they do it. Make there be a really, really valid reason and not just for the hell of it, you know? Because, like, she's one of the few characters that we see, like, die on screen, right? Like, or one of the only ones, really, that, like, get bodied like that, right? So it was a really meaningful death. So let's check this out.
Let's take a second and go back to September 1st of 2021, a pack that surprised us with the death of perhaps literally one of the hottest characters inside the game, the Signora. Without a doubt, she's dead, literally turning into ashes in front of our eyes, followed up by a system text which directly caused the Signora main subreddit to disintegrate into flames. But
I didn't even know that was a subreddit.
All signs seem to suggest yes, it's time to move on, and no matter how much we inject ourselves with copium, the embers of what could have been has been extinguished. So why am I making this video? Because within Genshin Impact lies a huge secret that could signal the triumphant return of our maiden within the veils of reincarnation. Believe it or not, inside the world of Genshin Impact,
this music,
reincarnation already happened on 3 separate occasions, all exhibiting commonalities that are simply too distinct to ignore. These individuals are directly connected to their archons, their ideals are symbolized within the archon quests, and they all seem to lack a sense of closure. The first and probably the most obvious case of reincarnation is the story of Vanessa. After her death and
which I've heard about a few times,
we can confirm that she returns as a falcon, and in real life, a falcon is a symbolic embodiment of freedom itself. On top of this, one of the core factors for a bird to take flight is, of course, the wind. But here's where things get more
I'm not gonna lie, I've heard things about Vanessa, but I didn't know that she came back as a bird. I never really knew that. I haven't read the Genshin manga or anything, but anyways.
Interesting. Vanessa's view of freedom was never actualized in her
I see bits and pieces about her.
In captivity, Venti pleads for her to accept his help to break out, guaranteeing the freedom of her people. But she declines, stating freedom given freely is only a guise for another shackle. Vanessa believed that true freedom had to be earned. However, later in the rebellion, we can see that Venti lends her a hand anyway in order to save her life and to protect the people. Which means, at that very moment, the pretext of liberation that Vanessa wished for had already faded from existence because of the intervention by the Animal Archon. To make things very clear, although a falcon represents freedom, it's only made possible because of the wind. In addition, Mondstadt may represent freedom, but it all originated from the Animal Archon. And in a symbolic sense for both the falcon and Mondstadt, they were never really free because of their reliance on another entity. However,
I get the point you're trying to make.
I speculate she does obtain closure much later in the story. If we look at the end of the chapter, we can notice that the Traveler is harnessing the Geo element, meaning this interaction between Venti, Traveler, and the Falcon occurs after the conclusion of Mondstadt's Archon quest. In seeing this, perhaps to signify acceptance or acknowledgement, the Falcon flies away into the distance for the final time. If you really think about it, it all makes sense.
I'm gonna be honest, I didn't know, one thing I didn't know is that there's there's Genshin manga that actually takes place, more present day. I didn't know that. That I didn't know. I thought the Genshin manga only took place, way before. Years and years before.
Since Vanessa
That's
wanted
surprised
people
me.
to take hold of their own freedom, and Venti is now technically no longer an Archon due to the lack of his Gnosis, giving true liberation to Mondstadt. And so, with this example, we may have found some hints.
Collecting them Gnosises like Infinity Stones, honestly.
First, the character's story is linked to the Archon. Second, the reincarnation resembles the concept of the region and its elements. And finally, it all stems from a lack of closure, which eventually resolves itself. For us to solidify the claim that Signora would return back into the game, we need...
So you're thinking Signora's gonna come back to life, but as something else? Just like how Vanessa did, right? So some type of animal or something?
To first confirm that the reincarnation of Vanessa was not a fluke or a coincidence? Let's confirm our hypothesis by exploring the second example within the region of Liyue, the uncanny link between Ningguang and none other than the god of dust herself. It is my belief that Ningguang is the reincarnation of Guizhong, but it's impossible to prove this notion because of the lack of confirmation. However, the hints within the game makes things convincingly obvious. Glazed lilies, which are a core item used for Ningguang's ascension, has a deep connection between Zhongli and Guizhong. Ningguang's best-in-slot weapon, the Memory of Dust, was a gift which also connects back to Zhongli and Guizhong. And just by playing through the story, we learn that both Ningguang and Guizhong are highly intellectual and excel in engineering. The list of connections between these two characters are endless, even from their favorite dish being identical
Yeah,
to
I
how
see.
Ningguang's hair color shifts similar to that of the other gods. But if Ningguang is in fact the reincarnation of Guizhong, why? Because just like how Vanessa had her own perspective of liberation, Guizhong's view on guiding a nation was different from Zhongli. What many people fail to realize is that in the past, Liyue was ruled by two gods, Zhongli and Guizhong, and from
I didn't know that. This video, I'm like, we're only 4 minutes in and I'm learning a lot. I did not know that it was run by two. I thought it was only run by Zhongli. If I'm gonna be completely honest with you. Jeez, my Genshin lore, man, I'm dusty as hell to brain right now.
Venti's voice line, it becomes clear that the perception of Zhongli has greatly changed over the years, suggesting that Zhongli used to be a blockhead who couldn't understand human feelings and basically a musclehead who ruled with strength.
What, so did the lady help him?
In contrast, Guizhong was the one who actively tried to understand and nurture humans through the process of knowledge, similar to the sentiments and ideals of Ningguang in this story. If you recall, the reason why the Jade Chamber even existed in the first place was to showcase human knowledge and ingenuity. In hindsight, it was the main reason as to how humans became independent. And this concept can also be found within the Memory of Dust, from the pledge and challenge made between Guizhong and Zhongli, which would explain the reason why Zhongli would spend thousands of years walking alongside humans, all in hopes to better understand them and to search for a way to actualize Guizhong's final wish, to nurture humanity and their independence through knowledge. And just like in Mondstadt, Liyue Archon Quest does bring closure to Guizhong's final wish through the reincarnation of Ningguang and of course with the help of the Traveler. With all this in mind, let's go back to the three main requirements for reincarnation. First,
Alright, let's do
just
it.
like how Vanessa's story originates from the concept of freedom and Venti, Guizhong's reincarnation stems from an informal contract connecting to Zhongli. Second, the falcon is connected to Animo, which uses the wind for flight to signify its freedom. Ningguang, being associated with Geo, utilizes oars to create the Jade Chamber, which is the symbol for independence. And finally, both cases of reincarnation occur again with the notion of unfinished business. From these patterns, I would theorize that Signora's reincarnation could be
she has more to do, she has unfinished business.
Naya and the view of the Tsaritsa co-align with their story, but we could argue that this is only possible if the patterns remain consistent across all the regions. So the question remains, does this pattern hold true for the region of Inazuma? Before you start thinking I'm insane and straight up overdosed on copium, you're going to have to let me explain myself, because things are about to get a bit more complicated.
Yeah, I mean,
Let's
I'm
talk
processing
about the
everything so
final
far. It's making sense.
reincarnation in Inazuma that will tie everything together. And who's the final person? Of course, Makoto. On the surface, the reincarnation of Makoto might not seem so direct, but we learned during Raiden Shogun story quest that the sacred Sakura is in fact the embodiment of Makoto, and Kazari stated
okay, I see. I'm getting the comparison now. Okay, I just had a little like bring, like light bulb. Okay, that's not the sound of the light bulb makes, but I'm just like, oh wait a second, I see where you're going with the newest Raiden Shogun story quest. Okay, let me keep going before I even say anything else.
The tree can tell who's performing the ritual, suggesting that the tree might be sentient. With that said, let us once again try to confirm our hypothesis. Mondstadt and Venti's false sense of freedom resulted in Vanessa's true liberation. Liyue and Zhongli's perception of rule transpired into Guizhong's idea of independence, and now Makoto's reincarnation stems from the difference in opinion between A and Makoto. Next,
Right.
just like how the Falcon relied on the wind and how Ningguang utilized oars to construct the Jade Chamber, the Sacred Sakura, or to be more specific, the Thunder Sakura, which is basically the side branch, uses lightning to ward off evil and cleanse the impurities of the land in Inazuma. Basically, just like the Falcon and Ningguang, the protection of Inazuma offered by the Sacred Sakura was solely dependent on the element of Electro. Lastly, as we learn from the story quest, Makoto's reincarnation occurs again due to the lack of closure associated with A's perspective of eternity.
It's crazy how that all just connect. The lack of closure, still needing to get something done, still needing to wrap things up in the real world. It's just crazy how he built that up each time with all these characters, and then boom, it works with freaking Raiden Shogun. Well, it works with A and Makoto. I'm sorry, my mind is sort of blown just how well that works.
And of course, just like everyone
Like, I just have to
else,
take little
Makoto's
seconds to
internal conflict does find
chill
a resolution.
and think
just
about
like
it.
how Vanessa wanted people to take hold of their own freedom, the people of Mondstadt themselves do bring about this change. Similarly, how Guizhong wished for humans to be more knowledgeable and independent, Ningguang fills this role with her intelligence and engineering. And almost in an eerie-like way, Makoto and Inazuma follows a similar pattern, breaking away the mold of eternal stasis, using the Sacred Sakura with the manipulation of time, convincing A to accept a new perspective of eternity moving forward. So again, let's simplify everything from all this craziness. The character to be reincarnated must have a direct link to their Archon. Their new reincarnated forms must reflect the idea of their region and its elements, and they must have an attachment to this world from a lack of closure. Let's see how Signora fares when put up against this template that could hint towards reincarnation. The first
Alright, let's see it.
requirement being her connection to an Archon. For
The
Signora,
Ice
it's
Archon.
pretty obvious, the Tsaritsa, but quite frankly, this alone wouldn't be enough because this will mean that every member of the Fatui would be nominated. However,
fair enough.
Signora's case is
That'd be
very
too many people.
fascinating because her backstory is identical to the Tsaritsa, both characters changing their perspective after the cataclysm. Before Signora completely
Signora's
lost
effed
the
up
world and
past.
became a harbinger, she used to live a peaceful life in Mondstadt, but after the destruction 500 years ago, her novel life spirals into the path of chaos and vengeance, and what's even weirder is that her attitude towards Venti and Mondstadt felt rather personal. Coincidentally,
It was. It
Venti
definitely
himself
was.
explained that Tsaritsa's demeanor also changed after the cataclysm, harboring discontent towards the world and to himself. Child also hinted that Tsaritsa used to be a gentle soul, who had to harden herself to declare war because she wished for peace. As we can see, the story of Signora and the history of Tsaritsa seems to directly mirror each other. Both
That's why, I sort of feel bad for when people are like, man, I freaking hate Signora. She's the worst. Like, if you don't know the lore behind Signora, you'll really understand of how she even got to that point. Because she had it rough, dude. She had it rough. She deserved better. Like, she didn't deserve for her life to go down the path that it did, but what can you do?
choosing to embark down the path of destruction. Moving along, Signora's reincarnated form should symbolize the concept of a region and the elements. Now, whether she would return as a human or something entirely different like an animal or a tree, we don't know. But one thing is very clear from her character design, the symbolic representation of a fire moth. The fire moth chases light or a path.
She's gonna become a giant moth when she comes back.
Signora's light will undoubtedly
New
be
boss.
Tsaritsa, but just like the previous examples of reincarnation, the cryo cocoon or chrysalis plays a factor which halts Signora from actualizing her ideals. And if you recall, it's very similar to how Tsaritsa had to harden her feelings to wage war against the entire world. And now for the final requirement, the lack of closure. If you're familiar with Signora's story, her whole downfall stems from a very simple but devastating reason, the heart-wrenching sense of grief fueled by the death of her love, Rostam. From everything explained, I feel that Signora's reincarnation has a high probability of occurring, but let's talk about what really matters. Will she be playable? For a character to be playable, there are a few speculative requirements as well. First, they need to exist in the current timeline. Second, they should have a constellation. And finally, probably most important, they should have a vision. So if
Right.
Signora died in Inazuma, how could she be playable in the current timeline? I'd argue that since the existence of time manipulation was confirmed during Raiden Shogun's story, theoretically the Signora of the past in Mondstadt, the present in Inazuma, and the future reincarnation in Snezhnaya can coexist in a point of singularity, just like in the case of Makoto.
Yeah, like if she was to be reincarnated, I don't know if she'd be playable though. I really don't know. Unless they do like the whole Ningguang route. That's the only way. But realistically, do I think she is? I don't know. It's sort of like a 50-50 in my head. Like, it would be cool to see her come back, but I don't know. I don't know. This is pretty crazy at the same time. That'd be pretty damn wild. And we aren't even gonna be in Snezhnaya. Because it's Snezhnaya, that's the location, right? We are not even be over there for a long time. We still got Sumeru coming up next, so jeez. But that doesn't mean that we'd have to wait all the way till Snezhnaya for her to come back, right? I don't know. I don't know. I don't think too deep into this right now. Let's finish the video.
Unreconciled Stars event that it's possible for anyone who existed in this world to have a constellation. And finally, it's been confirmed that Archons do not hand out visions. That could mean Signora might obtain a vision randomly, similar to how Ningguang got her vision in the story. A cryo vision would fit her perfectly to match the motif of Tsaritsa, as well as the other cryo characters that are riddled with internal struggles. But what confuses me the most is why Tsaritsa is not taking any action after the death of a Harbinger. Was this all part of her plan?
That's a great question. Tsaritsa, which is like main lady over here, she didn't really even we haven't seen her at all in the game. First off, but she didn't do anything. She's like, oh, Signora died, whatever. Huh. I still feel like we're probably not gonna see her for a while, but it's gonna be a hot minute till we see her. And I'm just curious to see what we're gonna see in Sumeru. Like, I feel like one thing that I know a lot of people have said when it comes to, like, what is it, the Harbingers, right? Is they feel like in Sumeru we're gonna see, what's his name, Dotor? I think his name is Dotor, the dude with like the mask, right, and like the teal hair or something, like some bluish hair with like an earring or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like that's what he like looks like. I think that's what people are thinking we're gonna see him next, but I don't know. This made me, like, my mind open up, and like the connections that he had for each Archon and everything, and the reincarnation with the specific characters, it made sense. I really didn't know about that Ningguang one either, though. I had no damn idea. So it's very intriguing. And then the Raiden Shogun one made a lot of sense too, with A and Makoto. So it just got the brain flowing. Yeah, it got the brain flowing for sure. But yeah, show some love to islandxd. Please do hit the like button on their videos, subscribe to them. Like I said, their videos in the description box below. If you enjoyed my reaction, hit the subscribe button over here too. It helps out a bunch, you know. We're trying to hit 4,000 subscribers, and we're a little more than halfway there. Check out the playlist we have on the channel for a bunch of Genshin content. You know, notification bell, you know, hit that bell so you know when I'm uploading. Helps out a bunch too. If you'd like to become a member on the channel, that's awesome also. You know, if we get one more member, we'll be playing some weird scary games on stream, so that helps, and you get some emotes to use in the live streams and in the comment section here on the channel. But it was a damn good video. Like, this is why I enjoy the theory videos. Like, it gets the brain flowing. You're like, oh my god, can this actually be true? What's next for Signora? Is Signora actually gonna come back to life? And if she was to get, like, come back to life in a sense, this would be like a way that would make a bunch of sense. Just because I have everything else that's connected with the other elements and archons and stuff. So I don't know. Only time will tell, and we shall see. But until the next one, as I always say, appreciate y'all, love y'all, stay safe. And as always, don't do crack.
Be sure to subscribe to the Special K Experience if you enjoyed this video. If not, you're going to Femboy IHOP.